So for the installation, I'm going to follow the OSM user guide. So, well, this is the recommended, the installation procedure for OSM is mainly you need to use a base image, Ubuntu 20.04, and the recommended flavor is this one here. So I'm going to create a virtual machine so that you see the whole process, okay? And you, let's say you understand the whole process of the installation, but it's pretty simple as having a virtual machine or creating a virtual machine based on Ubuntu 20 and run these commands here, okay? That's pretty all you need, okay? And once you have it, you will have OSM running. So first of all, let me connect to the VPN. Now I'm connected. Well, so this is an OpenStack. If you are not aware, well, it's a private cloud solution. Okay, here in OSM, we are using White Cloud, the solution from WhiteStack. And well, let's create a new instance, a new virtual machine that will be hosting OSM, right? So I'm going to instantiate new virtual machine. I'm going to create a new virtual machine. That is, I'm going to call it Gerardo Hackfest rel 11. Description, well, doesn't matter. I will do it from an image that it's going to be Ubuntu 20. This one here, Ubuntu 20.24. Now, selected the flavor. I'm going to use, the flavor is the characteristic of the VM, okay? I'm going to use OSM Sanity, well, in this case with 4 CPUs, 8 gig. This is going to make the installation process a little bit quicker, okay? It doesn't affect too much, but it's worth, okay? It's here. The network, I'm going to use this network here. And then I'm going to pass a key here. That's the one that I will use. That should be all, I guess. That's all we need, right? Just we have selected the image, Ubuntu 20, the flavor, at least 2 CPU, and following the recommendation here, at least 2 CPU and 6 GB. Also, 2 CPUs and 8 GB of RAM is recommended, okay? And then I'm connected to a network just to make sure that I receive an IP address that is reachable, and I inject an SSH key, okay? That's all. So I'm creating a virtual machine. It's creating it. Once it's ready, I will access to it, and I will install OSM on top of it. Well, now it's there, right? So it's ready. I should get access to it. I will connect to the VM. Okay, well, I like the color bar, so I will make my quick customized setup, okay? And now I'm going to install OSM. It's just, as I mentioned before, it's just follow the instructions here in the user guide here. So just get the installer. The latest release is release 11. I'll make it executable. To install, just we should only do install OSM, right? There is some help here that you could use to follow. Some of the options here are not right now available, but most of them they are, but some of them we are in the process of removing them. Okay, in the one option that I'm going to use right now is this option here, okay? Dash P Docker proxy URL is to set the Docker proxy URL. Since we are going to download different images from Docker Hub, and this virtual machine is running in our CI/CD environment. It happens that we are downloading images from Docker Hub, several images every day. So we are, let's say, reaching the limit of Docker Hub pools. Okay, well, there's a limit there in the Docker Hub pools. Although we shouldn't, okay, but from time to time we are getting that limit. Okay. And this option here allows us to bypass that by using our internal Docker proxy. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. Okay, I'm going to, let me make it so you could see it better. Clear. Now you have it here. That's all. And enter. Okay, so I'm going to explain what's going on right now. So once we run the installer, the first thing that it's done is that we add a Debian repository to our installation. That Debian repository is one in Etsy, where different packages, Debian packages are stored. One of them, this is the line, right? You see here the Debian repository. That's what the installer is doing. Then it installs a package that it's OSM DevOps that contains the installer. All the code of the installer is part of this package. So that's what's installed. And then it is requesting us whether we want to continue or not. It's telling us that it's not going to be install only OSM, but it will install anything that is required by OSM. So it will install and configure LXD that is required for the LXD-based proxy charms. It will also install Juju that is responsible for the interaction with the network functions. In the end, the charms run there as isolated environments and are interacting against the BNFs. It will install Docker CE, okay, and it will also disable swap space. This is typically disabled in cloud images like the one that I'm using from OpenStack, but it's not the case if you have installed your virtual, or you have created your virtual machine with VirtualBox, okay? It will also install and initialize Kubernetes with kubeadm, okay, and also OpenEBS and MetalLB. And this is what it's going to be done in general, okay? So do you want to proceed? Yes. So you see here that LXD is being installed. I have an installation already done apart from that, so just in case there are any issues, okay, but well, I'm going to comment as we go. Okay, so right now we have passed the LXD. Right now it's installing Docker CE, and well, anything here. It's a good practice also for the installation, and that you do it in this way, okay? So that you redirect your error output to the standard output, and in the end you tie them to a file so that you could send us the log if there are any issues, okay? That's a good practice that I would recommend, okay? There are other options related to the installation, like for instance, adding the cage monitor. Well, it's to add an add-on monitor to monitor the Kubernetes cluster where OSM will run. So in the end, this is going to deploy a Kubernetes cluster in our local environment, a single node Kubernetes cluster, okay, and it will deploy OSM on top of that cluster, okay? The reason is that, well, OSM is based right now, the architecture in microservices, so it's possible to deploy it as part of Kubernetes, and that's why we are following that approach. Right now, Docker CE has completed, and right now, I think that we are in the process of doing the Kubernetes configuration, right? So it will install all the packages, kubeadm packages and all that stuff, okay? And make sure that the Kubernetes cluster is working, okay? That's what right now is happening. It's unpacking in Kubernetes CNI, kubelet. There is a question, are you going to fix the conflict inspecting stable message? No, it's not an easy fix, but if you know how to do it, I'm glad to see it. It's not an easy fix because we are relying on Debian packages that, and the repo that we are following is not perfectly generated. We don't have the expertise to fix this conflict. So for the moment, we are letting it go, okay? So, But if you know how to fix it, we are glad to hear that. Okay, we are also in the process of moving to a different way for the OSM DevOps package, where the installer is all the code of the installer is. So we probably, I don't know if we will end up with a pip package or something like that. Okay, so right now the Kubernetes is ready. It right now is also, well, it's making sure that there is no OSM namespace there. Just in case you had already Kubernetes, it checks that the OSM namespace is being used or not, because the deployment of OSM will happen in that namespace. It's also deploying OpenEBS, as you know, is the way to manage volumes in, or it's a backend, the volume backend solution, okay, for Kubernetes. So one person is asking, I install OSM, I had to configure LXD before running install.sh, otherwise it failed. With manual configuration, it installs successfully. Is there any specific reason? Well, I don't know, Samares. It would help if you could let us know you were using a cloud image in a cloud environment or in OpenStack or in something, or is something that you created from VirtualBox, for instance. In case of VirtualBox, how you install the VM, because there are different mechanisms or ways to do it, so it will help. We're trying to give a generic mechanism that should work, but sometimes there could be issues, and understanding the situations help us a lot. We have added some extra information in our installer to be able to get some light on that, but it will help if you could give us more details, Samares. Well, right now it's, but if you have a specific case, let me know. Okay, this is the installation session, so if you have any question about that, it will help. So right now it's installing also Metal LB. We need Metal LB because well, in the end, also the UU controller, UU requires that to bootstrap a UU controller there. Right now, the cage cluster is ready. So right now, it's installing UU. It's bootstrapping the UU controller. Let me go again to the quick start, just to tell you other things, okay? Well, this is a module that was added in release 9, if I'm not wrong. It's the PLA, or release 8, PLA model placement, okay? That could be used for use cases related to optimization or placement decision, okay, about where to play the VNFs. Okay, it's not easy to, I mean, it's something that could be, it's optional, okay, that's why it's not installed by default, but if you wanted to install with it, you could add it. There are some use cases using placement that could be interesting if you are working in that area, okay, in the area of placement. There could be, you could, let's say, model the conditions that help to take the decisions, and that's something that could be interesting in some cases, okay? No, it's okay. Yes, normally you should install it without PLA and without cage monitor, okay? That's the question is whether you should install it without PLA and cage monitor or not. I typically install it without them, but there could be cases where it could be interesting. For instance, I don't know, if you are going to work on a specific placement scenarios, could be interesting to have it. And also, if you are, well, if you are not familiar with Kubernetes Monitor and you want to, or let's say the ways to monitor a cluster, okay, you could use this as a reference. That could be useful, okay. Well, let me go back to the installation. After the installation of Juju, right now it's getting the Docker images, pulling the Docker images from Docker Hub. We are doing, also this could be done as part of the deployment process itself. We separate it in order to minimize the confusion. So if there is any issue with the download, it will fail fast, okay? So it's, you'll see here that there are different components being downloaded, right? I will explain tomorrow the different components, okay? Now it's doing the deployment, right? So it's creating different, it's making the different deployments of the different, it's launching into Kubernetes the different deployments and stateful sets, okay? So right now the installation, the OSM client has completed, and we are right now checking OSM health state. We are making sure that the deployments and everything are ready before we leave the installer, so that you could make sure that whenever you start using it, it's safe, right? Yes, I mean, we can use Yoga release using master branch. Yes, there are, as I've been, there are different ways to do it. There are, let me check, for instance. Okay. You could use, for the Beam, you could use the stack in OpenStack. It's a well-known way to deploy an environment, okay, for an OpenStack environment in a virtual machine. You could also use, and it's part of the documentation of OSM, I guess, MicroStack. I think it's part of the documentation here. I'm not sure. Let me check. MicroStack is a single machine OpenStack cloud sandbox developed by Canonical and deployable with a single snap packages. You have all the detailed documentation here, so you could also use it. Okay. I think that there is, as part of the installation procedure of OSM, that there are other ways to install OSM right now. For instance, it's possible to install using an OSM bundle, okay, OSM charms, okay, and I think there is a whole description of that installation process from Canonical someplace. Mark, if you could let me know also. Also about MicroStack, also you could have it here. Okay, if you want to sudo snap install MicroStack, that's all, right? And you could have, for instance, one VM running OSM, another with MicroStack, or you could have in integrated environments. Okay, I think that it's possible too. Okay. Right now it's still on the health check. Okay. To be honest, this is an area of improvement that I have taken note in the installation, okay? And it takes, and all those checks higher than expected. The different models should be ready before. That's the main reason why they are not yet ready, okay? Can we install OSM on OpenShift? Well, that depends on your knowledge of OpenShift, okay? OpenShift is a wrapper for deploying Kubernetes application, but there is not such we don't have OSM in the marketplace of OpenShift, let's say. Okay, but you could right now we are in the process of packaging all OSM manifest, Kubernetes manifest in a Helm chart. Once we have that, I think that it's typically one of the options that you have in OpenShift, if I'm not wrong, okay? But, well, it's not part of the OpenShift marketplace or anything like that, okay? Sometimes when I do the install process, it loops bootstrapping and then times up and stop the process. The problem is related to the OSM hardware requirements. Could be. I mean, anytime that you have an issue with the installation, please post it in general or in DevOps channel. We do our best to answer all of you, okay? If you have any, I mean, I don't lose bootstrapping and then times up and stop the process. Yeah, the bootstrap of the controller, I have experienced issues from time to time. I don't know the reason. In the past, it could be related to an issue that we have with OpenEBS. Right now that we introduce some health checks of OpenEBS and MetalLB, it shouldn't happen, but I don't know. It depends. Okay, I'm not sure. Could be also the hardware requirements. Yes, maybe. Yeah, could be related. Shortly, it will finish shortly, if I'm not wrong. Now all of them are ready. And once they are ready, we are letting some time to make sure that they pass consecutive checks when they are ready. Okay, so the health check consists of two processes. First of all, it makes sure that all the pods and all the containers expected modules, let's say, are running. Okay, the second part is that they are running for a long time, right? About, I don't know, 2 minutes running. Okay, that's what we are right now. Once you have OSM, and that's what I'm going to tell right now. What are the next steps? Okay, while the installation finishes, typically one of the things that you will do is just, well, you could access to the UI. That's what we will do. Okay, or you could access the OSM client. Typically, what I would recommend is that you update the password for the admin. Okay, that's typically what I would do. Obviously, you could check also the installation. That's what we will do right now. And in the end, you will, well, after updating your admin user account, you could create dedicated project and user accounts. That's something that if you plan to use this installation share also with other people, it's a good recommendation, I guess. If not, you could just proceed with the admin account, okay? And you could add, in the end, you will have to add a Vim account. There are different ways to do it, but typically it's with the command line. You could do OSM Vim create and passing there the parameters, okay? On different Vims, okay? Or through the GUI, right? And then you will onboard the VNF and the network service packages, and you will, in the end, instantiate, okay, through the UI, for instance, okay, or through the OSM client with a single command like this, okay. That's what you will do. Let me check right now. 23 out of 24 checks. System is ready. It's done, okay. So now we have an OSM installation. Well, it completed successfully. Just let me show you, okay, that it's running. If I list, for instance, the list of Vim accounts that are there, you will see that there are no Vim accounts, or for instance, the user, the rollback, RBAC thing, right? The role-based authentication uses projects, right? So projects, only the admin project, only the admin user, Vims, no Vims, and the network functions packages, and the network service packages, no packages, well, and the network service instance, these are, right? Well, I think that's more or less what I check. You could update, as I mentioned, the admin account, and you could go to the UI. I will go to the UI to show you here that it's working. I'll go here, admin. Well, that's more or less, that's the installation process. You could take here the details of the installation. I mean, it's running on Kubernetes. So you should have right now, well, some stuff running here. You have a Kubernetes, okay, right now. So you could check with kubectl here what you have, okay. So let's check, for instance, first the namespaces that I have. Oh, sorry. Get namespace. There is a namespace that is OSM. Well, the UU controller is running in controller OSM namespace. The MetalLB is running this. The OpenEBS is here, and OSM is running here. So we could check for the namespace of OSM. We could check there are the different pods, services, deployments, replica sets, okay, running there.